I want to play the audio, a promo from NBC.
The Melissa Francis Perry thing. Grab audio soundbite number 1. Play it again.
I'm going to let this MSNBC promo that they just released speak for itself.
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
Finally, someone said it. Finally.
My kids do not belong to me. My kids are not my kids. They are the community kids.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I don't really have responsibility for my kids. I can look to the state to also take that responsibility and quite honestly, that burden from me. We have to lose this private notion that your kids belong to you.
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have. We have never invested as much in public education as we should have.
Here's the inflation-adjusted chart of education spending since 1970 that shows we now spend 3 times as much to educate a child K through 12, and yet we get the same or worse results.
We have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents.
It is so far beyond what we have ever thought as a nation. It's remarkable.
We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children.
Tyranny always grows slowly until a flashpoint or when the floor falls out from under the society. And we're now approaching that key trigger event. You can see the acceleration of the coming out of collectivism and classical tyranny. It has a lot of different names and flavors, but it's the same thing. It looks the same in every human culture for 6,000 years of recorded history.
This is a promo for MSNBC. This is not somebody just getting on and they can just say, oh, well, you know what? I was just kind of not really thinking when I said it. This is something that people thought about. This is something that everybody worked on. This is something that everybody got together and filmed.
Planned well in advance.
Nobody on the crew said, that's not really that crazy of a notion that my kids belong to me. Then they brought it back. They edited it. They sat around in a meeting. You know what we do here at The Blaze? We look at promos and say, yep, that's good. Go, put it on the air. This is not a mistake. This is the announcement of where they're headed.
And again, we've seen it before. This is what every corrupt, oppressive system sets up. And oh, the government loves the children. The Hitler Youth, again, many of them taken from birth by their children, voluntarily or involuntarily. They went into Ukraine and Poland and took the, quote, Aryan-looking kids, by 1939, 1940. And then just a few years later, they were in combat at age 12. And this is all just history. I mean, if you're a historian, a lay historian like I am that's read, let's be conservative, 300 history books, much of it about World War II, it is nightmarish. Type in Russian tax police. You can read all about how they're taken from their parents for petty reasons and then turned into these different FEMA corps over there for their different regions. All of this is authoritarianism. And it was the Russians that wore the mask and all the stuff before we ever did. I mean, this is all about intimidation, all about authoritarianism. And then we warn about it and, oh, we're anti-American. Here's the congressional record. I'm going to have this reposted on Infowars.com. 1963, Communist Goals, House of Representatives. This was released by patriots inside the Pentagon. Look at number 41. Emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influences of their parents, attribute prejudices, mental blocks, and retarding of children to suppressive influence of parents. And then I've got the major CPS manuals. You can look them up where they say get rid of the family. It's a disease.
I'm struggling here to explain how all of this is affecting me. I wish I could, just ignore it. and move on and pretend none of this stuff is happening. I mean, I've been really blessed in life. And I have literally nothing about which to complain. Not one thing. And I'm not oriented toward complaining anyway. But if there's anybody that has nothing to complain about, it's me. Personally. And yet, I'm going to tell you, some of this stuff that is happening in the country stands in the way of my happiness. I can't stand to see this stuff triumphing. It physically angers me. Things are so drastically wrong, heading in such the wrong direction. Playing golf again Saturday, and a friend of mine playing with the Club Pro at we should have been talking golf and latest happening on the tour. We went into the clubhouse after playing. We started talking about all the rot gut stuff happening to the country. Everybody's worried about their kids and grandkids, particularly their grandkids, and whether or not they're even going to have a chance to provide themselves.
What's really horrible about this is the idea behind this is going to be so appealing to so many people. So many people are going to say, I love that. Because I'm freaked out. I don't know what to do with my kids. I don't know how to parent them. I don't know what to do. I'm losing control of them. They're unruly. They're whatever. I don't know what to do. And so the state will relieve you of that.
All of the right people are reacting harshly to this ad. Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Sarah Palin, Bill Whittle, you know, the whole pantheon of those right-wing giants. And that's making this video go viral. Now, if you disagree with Melissa Harris Perry's thesis, wouldn't it be better to just ignore her? I mean, what's the harm in it?
No, categorically, it's not better to ignore. First of all, if you look at the YouTube ratings for this thing, it's got the biggest downtick I've ever seen. It's a giant red bar with a little itty-bitty little bit of green, which can give you a pretty good idea that the population of the United States is composed of about 7% fascists and idiots and 93% people with some fundamental basic level of common sense. These people take your money, they take your property, they take the product of your work, and now they want to take your children. And they want to take your children so they can get them indoctrinated earlier, so they can be part of their little army that'll go forward and do their bidding for them in this giant collectivist future that she outlined very, very clearly. And if you're not angry enough with these people taking your children away from you, Scott, you've got a moral defect, you've got some sort of genetic damage or something wrong with you. There's probably incurable. If you don't understand what these people are up to and what they're trying to do with this beautifully shot, beautifully balanced, beautifully lit, beautifully costumed, beautifully coiffed, beautifully made up woman, if you don't understand what they're saying, then you really, 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 really need to go and visit some barbed wire enclosed cases out in Poland someplace, because you will find the answer to this question. You'll find it very clearly.